Okay. All right, everybody. If I could have your attention, we're going to call the Moab City Council meeting to order, regular meeting on June 11th at 6:00 p.m. And we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And I would like our 4 volunteers that we're going to recognize tonight to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. More to come about our wonderful volunteers. So next up on the agenda, we have public comments. Do we have anybody that filled out a form for public comments this evening? Sure, there's forms up here. Go ahead and come up, introduce yourself, and then fill out the form so we just have the correct information.
Yeah, retroactively.
Right.
Oh.
So my name is Norman Taylor, and this is Kate Jagala. We're from the Moab Free Health Clinic. And we just came here today to let you know about some endeavors that we're working on over at the Free Health Clinic. We have started an endeavor, which is the LGBTQIA+ Community Coalition, which is to garner support within the community, business partners, agencies, city council, Grand County Council, to support the LGBTQIA+ community. And it's a 4-pronged approach. It involves political action, which is part of the reason that I'm here tonight. So we have representation. The other action items are pro-social activities, as well as educational workshops and support groups, and also safe places and safe spaces within Grand County and Moab. So that's one of the things that we would like to seek within Moab, is to work with the county as well as Moab City Council to identify safe places and safe spaces where our community members can go to feel safe.
Great.
Do you have anything?
No.
That's all I got for right now.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. It's great work. All right. Next up, we have a presentation from UServe Utah and AmeriCorps for Seniors. Laura Roethlisberger, which is not the name on her name tag because Roethlisberger, like my name, is too long to fit on a name tag. So why don't you go ahead and come up? Just you guys received some information on your desk in your packet. Laura heads AmeriCorps for Seniors, and I believe you're also a part of UServe Utah.
Right.
Yes, both. And does a great job in finding volunteers to support our community, our senior population. You know, we have a lot of volunteers that do a lot of cool things. To me, this is one of the coolest, you know, because our seniors, you know, sometimes we forget about them. And so it's so important for them to have companionship and to give them something to do to help support our community. So we have 4 volunteers tonight that we're going to recognize. Laura's going to tell you a little bit about the program so that we can get the word out, perhaps find more volunteers, and then she'll introduce the volunteers for us. Thank you.
Perfect. Yes, I'm so excited to be with you all tonight and really grateful that we have such a welcoming community here in Moab for our program and for these volunteers. So as the mayor mentioned, we are a state agency, UServe Utah, and we have a AmeriCorps Seniors program that covers rural areas of the state that didn't have this program 3 years ago. And our program, we have both the foster grandparent and senior companion program in Moab. Foster grandparents are working with children one-on-one, typically in classroom settings. We have volunteers at Moab Charter School and also at the Head Start Center. And these volunteers are working with kids who are the most in need and need extra support and building a supportive, caring relationship. So we started in April 2022 with 2 incredible foster grandparents, Beth McCloy and Charla Lovato, and they have served about over 3,000 hours at Moab Charter School. And now we have a new volunteer, Monette Clark, who is serving at the Head Start and helped us bring that partner on board. And they're really, really excited to have her. And we're hopeful to have new volunteers get started as well at the Head Start Center. Our volunteers, they are 55 or better, and they are just there to build those caring relationships with children. Our senior companions, similar program and benefits, but our senior companions work with older adults that need support to live independently in their own homes. So they're helping to drive out loneliness. Loneliness is so terrible for people's health. And so having a volunteer come and provide that companionship is invaluable in many ways. And the other part of our program is that they can also provide respite care to families that have an older adult living at home and to try to help with staving off caregiver burnout. So we have one senior companion volunteer and a really great partnership with Moab Regional Hospital to operate this senior companion program in Moab. And we are hoping that we'll find other volunteers who want to do this senior companion service. That one volunteer has served 5 individuals in the past year and really built amazing relationships with those individuals to help them in their lives in their later years. Let's see if there's anything else I want to share. We just see improvements in the children. We see improvements in the older adults that are being supported in this program. And honestly, my favorite piece of the work that I get to do is connecting with the volunteers. And we have different coordinators throughout the state, but I get to work a lot with our Moab volunteers. And I can say that each one of these women is truly remarkable in their own way. And they are just incredible. And so we're excited to share our message and hopefully find other people who want to be a part of our program.
Great, thank you. So do you want to bring up the volunteers?
I do, yes, I would. Would you come up, Monette and Charlotte and Pat and Beth? Thank you. So
Thank
I
you.
will introduce, this is Pat Mullen.
Nice.
She is our senior companion volunteer and has such a big heart. All of our volunteers have enormous hearts. So thank you for all that you've done, Pat, as a volunteer.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Don't go anywhere. Stay up here. Stay up here. Let's introduce them all, and then I have a little surprise. Not a big one, but
This is Charlotte. She is one of our initial 2 volunteers. She started in April 2022. She has actually served 1,500 hours over the past 2 years. We were able to recognize both Beth and Charlotte with a Lieutenant Governor Volunteer Recognition Certificate tonight because they have done so much service. And Charlotte works with the kindergarten children at Moab Charter School and takes these kids from where they are and helps them move along in their kindergarten journey, and is just an amazing supporter of those kindergarten students. And then this is Beth. She is a huge reason for us having this program in Moab. She served as a foster grandparent in Texas, and we're so glad that she moved to Moab and was such an enthusiast to make sure that we brought the program here to Moab. She served 1,800 hours for our program, 4 years as a foster grandparent, and is just amazing with those children. So thank you so much, Beth. And this is Monette. She's our newest volunteer and has just I've learned from Monette when we've talked about our training, one of the pieces of our program is we do pre-service training with all of our volunteers. And so we do meetings with them, but we also give guided training. And after I reflected with Monette on some of the guided training, I'll say I learned from her. So we're so glad that she's joined our program, and thank you for being our amazing volunteers.
so as a small token to show our appreciation for all you do, we have pins from the city of Moab to add to your pin collection. And so here you go. And thank you guys so much for everything you do. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Next up, that was pretty exciting. So now we get to the boring part of our meeting. And you guys are welcome, you guys don't need to stay. You're welcome to go if you'd like to. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no department head updates this evening. Next, we do have a consent agenda, 2 items, 5.1, approval of the minutes from May 28th, 2024 regular meeting, and approval of the bills against the city of Moab in the amount of $757,552.04. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Jason. Second by Caitlin. Any discussion? Jason?
No.
Caitlin? Nope. Anybody else? All in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, next up, we have Danny here to discuss some amendments to the City of Moab's personnel manual. Oh, you're gonna do that?
Well, to the degree it needs to be. Yes.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
So it's gonna be David
Yeah.
and Danny. If you need
Yeah.
Danny, she's here for questions. Basically, these changes revolve around state legislative changes that came up this year. And so we needed to get those implemented in a timely manner. There may be more down the road, but at this point, we wanted to get these into the manual as soon as possible so that we're in compliance with state code.
Yeah, that's really the bulk of it. As you can see from the agenda summary, there's really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 proposed amendments or changes to this policy, the personnel manual. The only one that's not a state mandated piece we added in there was an update to the vacation leave policy because it's kind of evolved over the years, or honestly kind of whipsawed around in terms of what that cap was for accrual of vacation hours. And we feel that it is reasonable and makes sense to keep that accrual at a little bit higher level in terms of what the maximum is, because that's consistent with what you see with other jurisdictions, among other things. And it is also where the level used to be before. I think kind of in the COVID era, things moved around a lot bit. So this is, I would say, maybe a kind of a normalization of the accrual, maximum accrual rate.
Is that it?
I think so.
Questions for David or Danny? Motion?
Is that for all of them? For proving all, or just one at a time?
No, we're proving them all.
Okay.
Unless you have,
The only question I had was the retirement gift.
Mhm.
And it says gift card. Is that like a gift card? Like a gift to,
It's not.
okay.
Yeah, please.
Sorry.
Sure.
I was wondering.
No, we don't give out gift cards.
Okay.
So the retirement gift is actually, hang on, there we go. The retirement gift is actually a gift that's given when somebody retires and we do like a little get together. It's usually some kind of either, like, we've done a watch in the past, we've done some nice little statues, some things like that. So it's kind of a thank you for all years of service, congratulations on your retirement. And it just seemed to be that the amounts were not meeting what gifts are costing at this point. So it's really just kind of an inflation on that one.
Perfect, okay. That was like a gift card to Chili's or something.
No.
I think there have been issues with gift cards in the IRS and
Yeah, we
taxing,
we don't do gift.
Okay,
cards.
and that's why I'm kind of like wondering about that. I was like,
Yeah.
was that because of some thing? But I thought it said gift card and the thing, but maybe I just read that wrong. But, cool. All right. Yep, I'm going to the questions.
any other questions?
Thanks,
Go ahead, Tony.
I can move to adopt resolution 15-2024, a resolution amending the City of Moab Personnel Manual.
Okay, motion by Tony. Second,
I'll second that.
second by Luke. Discussion, Connie.
No.
Luke? Anybody else?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, there you go. More to come.
More to come.
Okay, next up, item 6.2, consideration of the adoption of ordinance 2024-03 and ordinance amending the Moab Municipal Code, section 17.06 definitions and 17.24 C3 Central Commercial Zone Permitted Use and Regulations to create a new permitted use adaptive recreational service provider with use parameters for accommodations for qualifying participants, possible additional amendments to MMC 17-09-700 to clarify language regulating short-term rentals. And Corey's going to present this. This was an applicant, the National Ability Center, and the folks that are part of that organization are here if you have any questions. This was kind of a interesting proposal, and it kind of opened our eyes to an area that we were kind of missing, and we wanted to get this right because it is allowing overnight use in an area that we no longer allow them. And so this is a way for us to be very specific about who is allowed to do this. And so Corey, go for it.
Perfect. Thank you, Council. This is a presentation that has gone through Planning Commission. So if you've watched those materials, you'll recognize what. Oh, there we go. So a bit of a further look background as to where we've started this approach. So the National Ability Center team and their applicant team approached us about a year ago for possible consideration of an annexation process, how the code would be evolved through the annexation process. So we've been working on this for quite a long time with these applicants and refining the language continually as we went. But what we found as we were entering into the annexation discussions is that if they were to annex into the city, there really wasn't any firm footing for them to land within any aspects of our code, whether it was the C3 zone or any other zones. The use of the very specific use that they are is just that, very specific, and needed to be, I think, identified and carved out in such a way. And then furthermore, not just landing the current business and how their scope of use operates, but also an additional component, which is what we're seeing with the two pieces of this amendment. One is just the use itself, but then also this additional capacity to provide accommodations for its participants that have a really specific and critical aspect of their operations. So what we'll go on through in this background series is, and actually while we're on this vicinity map, pointing out that the NAC is really a conglomeration of 4 parcels as a campus. One of the parcels is actually already within the city limits, which is this larger piece here that you see run up the cliff. And then a vacant property that's just to the west of that. And then what is currently operating as their guide house is also on that side of Cermak. And then their boat house or kind of operation side just across the street. So through this language, we essentially got into in your packet, and it was identified in 2 different exhibits. So I can clarify if that needs to be clarified further, is the proposed amendment language by the applicant team that we as staff have worked through the process on. There was as exhibit 4, and that's why I'm going to kind of move through this a little bit quicker. So this is what the proposed language was, but what I'd like to focus on is the amendment language with the staff recommendations, because really this is after running it through the legal advisory review, how our legal team perceived that they can accommodate this and solidify this use even more without it being vulnerable to misuse within the community. So the use definition itself, what we're seeing here, did not change. Nathan didn't have any amendments that we need to add there. Michael Black, our community development director, worked pretty closely with the team to develop this specific language as far as the title, adaptive recreational service provider. That has aspects that are supported in state code as well. So we're not just creating this out of thin air, but taking what the state has done, but also moving it a little bit further forward in where their industry is headed as far as the identifying the adaptive component to this. Sorry, I don't know why it keeps wanting to go back there. And now into what was kind of described as an ancillary use component, meaning it was a separate use attached to this use, meaning they could have been used interchangeably. What Nathan's done is he's made those inseparable. It is the use with this option of an additional component of a use parameter. We're familiar with this within land use code. We use this regularly. So he just really encapsulated this into one program versus where I think had initially started. There were discussions about potentially having this accommodations aspect that could be applied to different uses. And what he's done now is said, no, this is the one use that can do this one thing in this very specific way. So it's very, very solid in that way. Nathan did additionally add language to clean up the rest of our code. This is in the kind of our supplementary requirements to take out remnant aspects of when we amended our overnight accommodations code back in 2019. It's cleaning that up. And also to additionally recognize this use as not a loophole and not some forgotten piece. It's encapsulated here. So that's really the language piece. And that's really where my presentation ends. I'm hoping that the background, and you've had a chance to watch all of the PC presentations, which were phenomenal, that really goes into NAC itself. But I think as far as the approval tonight, hopefully that covers everything you guys need to know.
Questions for Corey?
No.
Luke, do you have anything since you're our liaison to PZ?
No questions, but just really appreciative of what the program does, period, and like just appreciative of them coming out and having these conversations. I think they've been like very much needed in terms of just recognizing that our municipal code doesn't necessarily take into consideration sometimes our nonprofits, which really provide so many essential services to our community. So particularly as we move forward into this municipal code rewrite, I think it's important to have that at the forefront of our minds. But no, just thought it was really, really thought-provoking discussions. I think the Planning Commission really thought through a lot of like the ways in which something like this could be taken advantage of, and really wanted to make sure that it's really made only available to programs such as yourselves. So yeah, no questions, but just really positive things all around.
Anybody else?
I'd just like to echo kind of what Luke said. NAC is, before the NAC was here to explore, you know, they've been such a critical part of our community for so long. And this has been kind of the missing piece of what they do, I think. So I'm excited by this, and I'm excited for what they're doing with it, because I think the NAC is just so valuable to our community and to the community that they're serving. And this will allow even like a new form of, you know, tourism or people visiting our area that otherwise couldn't do it. You know, I know being in this industry, the same industry that they're in, you know, we can't serve these people or serve this group, you know, because we're not talented enough, and they are, you know, and they have the resources, and they do so well with it that I think it'll just do nothing but expand what they do and help a lot more people. So I think that this is very good. So.
Other questions for staff?
I would just echo what Luke and Jason have said, that this is a really important piece in our community, and it's very often a forgotten piece. And it's important for us as council members to know that when we create these documents, that they can live and they can change. And it's important to do that when we see something that we've missed.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that, you know, we are all able-bodied people, and I think this is an important step for making the city more inclusive of all people of all abilities. So I think, you know, I'm really encouraged. I'm very supportive of the work you guys do. Appreciate you. Echo Jason's comments. You know, we are pushing for responsible recreation. I think what you would do is responsible and you know, opens the door for a lot of people to get outside that normally can't. And so I'm encouraged. I'm excited about this. I'd love to continue using kind of this lens of adaptive spaces, safe places for people, everyone in our community, as we continue to look at our zoning code update. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you to the Planning Commission. They did a lot of work. This was, like I mentioned at the beginning, we were really concerned about loopholes. And thank you guys for being so accommodating through the process. So really appreciate the work the Planning and Zoning Commission did to get this to a place where I think you guys are all comfortable. One question I have, are we going to annex the other two pieces or two or three pieces? Is that a consideration?
Our Courtney Kaiser is the applicant facilitating that process. So this was the first step, because there was really no point in pursuing the annexation if there was nowhere for them
Right.
to land in theory. So now that we're moving towards that direction, we'll probably start tomorrow. I mean,
I hope so.
we're pretty
I'd love
hungry to get
have
that going. So
partial annex
we
in.
have
That would
a
be
a
great.
site plan that we've already been working with them on, but the annexation would be the next step. So
So
hopeful of that.
pre-annexation agreement probably coming down the pike,
Yep.
just so you guys know. Great.
Yep.
That's great. Thank
That's
you.
right.
All right, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion. I move that the city council approve ordinance number 2024-03, an ordinance amending the Moab Municipal Code, section 17.06, definitions 17.24.020, C3 Central Commercial Zone permitted uses and regulations, and 17.09.700 residential short-term rental prohibited, to create a new permitted use adaptive recreation service provider with use parameters for accommodations for qualifying participants.
Great, good job.
That's all.
That's it. That is. All right, motion by Jason. I'm not going to repeat the motion. Seconded by Luke. Jason, any discussion?
No.
Luke.
No, I was also just thinking kind of about our Parks Master Plan, how they really highlighted that our community is not at all accessible to people who aren't able-bodied. And I think you were a really great reminder of, which we're looking to change, but a reminder that our economy necessarily isn't either.
Sorry, David is making faces.
That our economy necessarily wasn't either. That yes, we do have this core of recreation in Moab, but I think a lot of times we get a little like blinders on as to like what that means, or like what is the definition of that. But as was highlighted, like you guys do recreation and you do it responsibly, and you are members of our community, you support members of our community, and you bring in like a whole new population set that I don't know necessarily would have the opportunity to be exposed to a place like this, which like people from all over the world like make it a life goal to come here and facilitate that for people. And so just really appreciative. And yeah, just kind of was thinking about how nicely timed that was, that we found out that we're not really accessible, and we're being presented with opportunities to change that a little bit. So
Thanks, Luke. Any other discussion from council? Yes. Oh, wait. Colin, do you have?
Corey. Just point of clarification, the motion as read, I think is accurate, but just for the record, this is Exhibit 4. The way the motion was stated identifies Exhibit 4, which includes the staff recommended edits. So just on the record, we are adopting the one that we're all in agreement is the staff recommendation.
Right.
But it's not specifically stated in that motion, even though it reads that way of amending what Nathan said. So
Okay.
just, I know Lisa's on, so Lisa, we got it, I think.
Summer, do you have it? She's
Okay.
the keeper of the record.
Thank
So, all right, very good. I'm going to call for the question. Motion made by Jason, seconded by Luke. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. There you go. You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Council.
Okay, last but not least, we move on to garbage.
Mhm.
Well, it's not gonna be last, I don't think. Okay, next general business item 6.3, consideration of approval of an interlocal agreement between Moab City and the Solid Waste Special Service District. Number 1, DBA Canyonland Solid Waste Authority. And David, you're going to be the one talking about this.
Correct. So this is the culmination of a number of iterations of this interlocal agreement. I'll just do a quick review of what the highlights are of it. Yeah, there we go. Got a few. This interlocal agreement with the district, as you all know, is coming about because the contract that the city had with Monument Waste back in the day was assumed by the district, and then it expired at the end of May. You all did an extension to give us a little bit more time to get things in order, and I'm bringing you a recommended interlocal agreement with proposed rates as part of that for the district to then implement. So highlights, we did try to simplify a bit and streamline the agreement so that we have recycling and trash all in one agreement. The crux of the matter is that residential trash rates as proposed would increase from the current rate of $20 for the 96-gallon can once a week to $26 in the first year upon implementation. And then rates would increase $2 each year additionally for the next 4 years for residential rates. Commercial trash and recycling rates for both commercial and residential multifamily would all also go up in the first year pretty significantly, but then those we negotiated to set at a 3% increase annually after that for the duration of the agreement, which at this point is proposed to be 10 years. So a little bit of a nuance in how we're approaching residential rates or is proposed versus commercial trash rates. And then recycling rates are standardized across residential and commercial for, you know, in theory, simplicity to make things a little more understandable, and also because the service is fairly consistent across those residential and commercial. So in addition, and I'll show the specific rates in a minute. Either party may revisit trash rates after 5 years. This was our way of the city still having a say potentially in the rates after 5 years, but if you don't want to have a say, you don't have to. So in other words, if the district will set the rates based on an agreement that you all approve at some point. And then after 5 years for residential, if the district sets rates at, or proposes to set the rates at a rate that the council, the city is not okay with, then you have the option to enter into further negotiations at that point for the residential trash rates. The recycling and the garbage are to be set, so those wouldn't necessarily be something that you would expect to renegotiate because they'd stay at that 3% rate. The other big piece of this, glass will no longer be part of the single stream recycling pickup. Instead, there will be an additional drop-off site in town in addition to the current recycling center up off of Sam Flats. We'll try to figure out where to put a big old bin, you know, ideally in a place that's easy to access and is also accessed anyway by people. So we're minimizing the need for extra trips. TBD on that. And then a big piece of this puzzle too is that the district will be handling all billing and customer service issues moving forward. At this point, we will be transitioning billing from city staff to the district staff, and that will be a process, but that is part of the approach. So here's the residential trash rates comparison. You can see those rates there. And the other thing to maybe note in here is that if people currently are residents and they have a 65-gallon container, the smaller one, they will be in essence grandfathered in with that service. The rates will go up for those as well, but they'll be able to keep their smaller can either for the every other week, which is what the EOW stands for, or the weekly pickup. So that will still happen. We did agree, at least in this proposed agreement, to not expand the offering for 65-gallon cans. The rationale there being that to buy them in bulk is expensive and there aren't that many customers who use them. And so it's a little bit problematic from an expense standpoint for the district for additional 65-gallon cans that come online. This is a comparison. You've seen a version of this in draft, but this shows a bunch of the jurisdictions around us and in the state for comparison's sake. So these proposed rates would put us, you know, in the top third to 25% of the rates as compared here. Not an outlier, but also not at the bottom. And this is a totally complicated, probably highly indigestible PDF to view, but I wanted to make sure it was at least here and seen. It shows the comparison between current rates and proposed rates for recycling, commercial and residential. The key one here from a residential standpoint is that every other week recycling is currently $14. That would go up to $18 initially. And then again, that 3% increase would kick in after this first year of implementation. So And commercial trash rates have a similarly sort of complex spreadsheet to them, but the upshot there is rates would go up initially, a decent jump. And I will, put this in a little bit of context. Rates have only been increased once in the last, I believe, 5 years. In an ideal world, rates are gently increased over time to keep up with inflation and expenses. That has not happened. And so you all are in a slightly unfortunate position of having to evaluate whether to do a significant increase at first to, in essence, get caught up. And then after that, would try to really implement these 3% increases or the $2 increases for commercial rates or residential rates over the next few years so that it's more predictable and people know what they're getting into and they know what's coming. And you also then won't have to deal with it. So that is it. The only other thing I'd note is that the district, after we had published the ILA in the packet, came back with some requests for some modifications, minor modifications to the ILA. One of them was even a correction that we'd just done a little math piece wrong on the municipal facilities rates, but got that fixed. So those are in that proposed motion that I sent around if you're interested in actually approving tonight. So that's where that sits.
Questions for David?
I do have one question. So for municipal rates, for all the other rates, we see the annual increases. And there's just a current versus proposed. Is municipal, I mean, it's a 50% increase. Is that annual? What's the annual increase for municipal rates?
Right. It would be the initial increase would be 50%. And then I believe we did agree to a 3% increase over the duration of the contract for municipal rates as well, for the municipal facilities rates, to be clear.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have some questions. So as I was looking at this, there's a big rate for residential. There's a big jump, but then it looked like commercial was only going up about 10%. And yet the residential went up 71%. Is that
No,
or not 71%, or it went up to whatever the $6 was.
30.
yeah, 30.
30%. Yeah. Yeah.
It depended. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so I was just kind of wondering what the difference was.
Why the different approach, slightly different approach. The answer is that the way that I wanted to propose structuring the rates for commercial was to kind of similar to the way we approach water rates, which is a little bit of an incentive to have less garbage, frankly. And so if you'll notice that rates actually will increase pretty substantially for the more frequent and larger bins. So it's like, actually a lower sort of the incentive to have it be once or twice a week pickup for smaller containers is built into the rate schedule.
And I love that. I'm really supportive of that, the incentivizing the less waste reduction or production. And then a second benefit to that is that these businesses also have the opportunity with this rate structure to consider going to a larger dumpster and having less frequent pickups, which is really beneficial to the district in terms of, just liability and lots of other things, labor.
As well as congestion.
Yeah, and I think that this is a really just a proactive approach to our waste stream to incentivizing generating less waste. And I would argue that, any business does have options or ways to mitigate or lessen the amount of waste they're producing, and this absolutely incentivizes it. So I was very, very supportive of David's approach to the commercial rates.
I'm kind of curious why you wouldn't have the same approach for residential to try to incentivize residential.
We sort of do in that every other week is is still less than weekly pickup and the smaller bin to the degree people have them, right? So that's the sort of, I'd say, rougher approach to that.
Yeah, and just absolutely, I mean, intensely complicated, right, for the number of residences compared to the number of businesses. And if all the, I can't imagine the logistics of, although I would be supportive of some kind of incentivized.
Yeah, I think, they call that the pay as you throw approach,
Yeah.
basically, and it's, some jurisdictions, larger jurisdictions that have more sort of cap or have more capacity for this type of thing do have more bin options, like size options, but I think we're probably one of the very few on this chart that outside of Salt Lake City and maybe Park City that provide bin options for residential at all. Do you know what I'm saying?
We do, or we
We
do
do.
currently?
You can get a 65. You can either use
Okay, yeah.
But that's
Yeah,
gonna
right.
end with this.
But that's gonna
by-
end though. We're getting rid of that.
That's true. That is
So,
right.
so we're kind of
The every
incentivized the incentive aid. right?
except I would say it is a reduction in
Still every other week, there's still an option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that
Still-
was my
still not-
question about if people feel like they want to change to every other week, when is there a window to do that?
right. So the ILA as it is proposed will continue the practice of having an annual kind of open enrollment period to change the service level. And I think it's in July typically.
Any other questions, Jason?
So many questions. No, no, the only thing that I have, is I've read over this thing and I've kind of vocalized my concern, as we go through this is that, we don't own the special service district. It's not, a city, part of the city or anything like that. We're contracting with, the special service district, which is great and stuff. And I think we have a great relationship with them and stuff. However, as we're negotiating these rates and we're negotiating these new things, I have nothing to base it off of besides the fact of how do I compare to Salt Lake City, Rifle, Grand, that's, I can compare to that and go like, oh, how come, Blanding's so much cheaper, Blanding's cheaper or, well, we're not Park City, and, so, but I don't have anything to go back to the constituents, of Moab and say, hey, I negotiated this deal with you, and if someone were to ask me like, well, did you get another bid? What was when you put it out to bid, which I think that probably if we did put this out to bid, the solid waste special service district is probably going to come in cheaper than anything out there. And I get that and I understand that. However, I have no proof of that and I have nothing to substantiate the decision of giving it to them. And so I kind of feel like that I haven't done my due diligence, or we haven't asked for someone else to give us a bid as to what it would take, and I don't know who that is. We've talked about it. However, and we did it, 15 years ago or whatever, we talked about that and it backfired on us, and, 10 years ago, whatever it was with the city. But however, I just feel like that, as we look at this, I don't have anything to know that I'm getting the good deal or getting the best possible rate for the residents of Moab. That's my only concern.
Other questions, comments?
Well, we did put this out to bid when we contracted with Monument, and they were the only bidder. And I don't disagree with you in theory at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that we owe it to the special service district to let them succeed or to give them the opportunity to succeed. And I think if we were to back off now and put it out to bid, that just bogs this whole process down. And there are mechanisms built in here for all of us to renegotiate this and change it if we need to. I don't have anything to base, am I getting the best deal I can either, except that in the past, we've only had the one bidder.
I agree. It's an unwinnable situation. Or it's a, and I totally agree with that, because special services, because you could say, we're going to charge you $50 a month, take it or leave it, and so I appreciate them working with us on this, but it's just hard to approve something when you don't know, what's if you're missing something.
No, I think I get where you're coming from with that, and like, I think we've had these conversations where this is very, very like 99% likely this would be the only bid that we would get out here, and so we can tell that to the constituents, but it becomes a bit of a, well, it's this way because trust us, rather than actually having some sort of tangible proof to point to where like we did put this out for bid and we didn't get anybody out. And so I don't want to like necessarily grind things to a halt here, even like slow them down, but something to think about moving forward. I think that's like a pretty common complaint that we get from constituents when we like bring issues to like public discussions, is that a lot of them feel as though they're kind of just left with the whole trust us. So no, I get where you're coming from, because we can say that we are doing this with the residents' best interest in mind to look blue in the face, but like if we don't have anything to actually like prove that, then I don't know. I can see how some people might find it difficult to trust us.
Am I correct, David, that we can do both of these things, that we can approve this ILA and, keep our partnership solvent with the district, but then also be exploring other options and because we do have written into the ILA these outs, these opportunities to. So, I mean, my concern is that we're just, if we don't move forward with this, that we're not playing the long game, that if we can consider this and keep, pushing off entering into this ILA, that if the solid waste district does not stay afloat, that we're going to be in a worse position. And, is that correct, that we can be, looking around and constantly, searching markets and looking and be sure that we have the information to inform our negotiations with solid
Yes,
waste?
absolutely.
But
Yeah, I mean, well, I think first of all, at the last meeting, we just extended our current contract until September. So I don't think we have to approve this tonight,
Isn't it through September?
September 1st. Right?
Can't remember
Or is
exactly,
it-
but it's at least September. Yeah.
Till at least, we have a couple of months. I think I'm in the same camp. I don't feel like I understand enough about how these rates were calculated to just be able to say, trust us. I think for us to jump from the bottom third tier of this scale to the top third tier gives me a lot of hesitation. I understand it's like inflation related and rates haven't gone up. But I don't think that I've seen enough of the rationale for how these, I feel like we were kind of presented with finalized products, and I appreciate all the work you guys did to, negotiate and bring that to us.
Yeah, it's kind of that was my job.
Yeah, I acknowledge that for sure.
Okay.
And I think for me, like I can say, I can take on $6 extra a month for my trash, but I know that there are a lot of people, and we've already heard from some constituents that is impactful every time that there's an increase and someone's on a fixed income, people have to figure that out. And so I think for me, I'm not quite ready. I feel like I want more information, more discussions. I think even, us talking about the two rates between residential trash, I'm looking at weekly versus every other week. If we're just increasing all of these by $4 across the board, and we want to greater incentivize every other week, like why not drop that to 20, increase weekly to 28? There's just, I just have more kind of questions and more thinking that I feel like I need to do to make sure I can confidently say that this is the best. Because I do want to support our district. I don't personally feel like we need to go out to bid, but I think it's, kind of, I feel like I need to spend more time with like bigger picture finances to understand kind of how we got specifically to these numbers. I know that we got some information about the comparables, but understanding even more kind of like the full study. I haven't seen that. So I just want more time for me.
You want to address that at all? No? Okay, any other questions for David? And I'm going to call for a motion.
I will make a motion that I move to authorize the mayor to sign an interlocal agreement between Moab City and the Solid Waste Special Service District for the provision of solid waste and recycling services.
All right, motion by Colin, second.
I'll second.
Second by Tawny. Discussion, Colin.
I would like to see us move forward on this tonight and then we can continue discussions and continue but for this time, giving some kind of security to the solid waste district to continue moving forward with their operations.
Tawny,
I don't have anything else.
anybody else?
Point of order, is now a time for me to make a substitute motion, or do we vote on this first?
Alternate. I don't have my rules of order in front of me. My thinking is you could make an amended motion.
It's a substitute motion. She can make it now.
Okay, thank you, Elisa,
Yeah.
from the ghost from the TV. Thanks for knowing our
Thanks, Lisa.
rules better than me.
I would motion to table the approval of the interlocal agreement between Moab City and the Solid Waste Special Service District for the provision of solid waste and recycling services.
All right, we have a motion to table consideration of approval of the interlocal agreement made by Caitlin. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Second by Jason. Discussion, Caitlin.
Yeah, I think based on the discussion, I mean, from my perspective, I totally agree with you. We deserve an answer to the district for sure. I think that we have more time. And a few of us have more questions to provide the best answers to our constituents. I personally think that the best time to negotiate rates, both for clarity to constituents and also just general negotiations, is before you sign the contract for the first time. And so I think it would be best practice for us to feel confident as a council and as a city before just signing an agreement to give some level of assurance and then saying, but we could change this later. I think it would be better to have a full comprehensive approach the first time we do it.
Jason,
I agree with that.
anybody else?
Are there any like negative complications or anything that can arise if we do delay signing this?
I think it's just more the timing on transferring the billing process. It starts to get a little crunchy for sure. That's gonna be a process. And so the sooner we can get going on that, the better, but we're probably pretty hesitant to do that without approval.
Yeah.
Could I let Luke
Yeah.
continue?
I've worked at a consulting company where we switched like billing software, and that's where messes can really happen really easily.
Yeah.
So like I do have a concern that if we do kind of get into that crunch time, like there will actually be a negative impact on our residents in terms of like switching systems over and everything like that. I think had it not been for like the possibility of something like that, I don't see any harm in anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I struggle with it. I feel like one way or another, if we move forward with either tabling it or approving it with kind of looking at other stuff, we're not really giving the service district a ton of certainty one way or another. So to me, like the fact that it is potentially going to have an impact on like staff and residents and all of that stuff kind of has me leaning towards Colin's suggestion of approving it now and kind of moving things laterally, just so that, I mean, it was kind of like with the Walnut Lane situation, is kind of set things up so that you don't get in a really tough bind while you kind of keep exploring other options, like in parallel.
Tawny?
I would
Discussion?
agree with Luke, yeah.
Colin?
No other comments.
Well, go around one more time. Caitlin? No? Jason?
Yeah, I agree with Caitlin on this. I think that we're not kicking this out until, August 15th, I wouldn't think. I think we're doing it sooner. Hopefully we'd get resolution in the next 30 days. My thing is just I think it is better to, have a plan, or know what we're doing, before we do something, let's figure out what we're doing before we do it, and stuff. And, you bring up Walnut Lane. It's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what my thing would just be that, and I honestly do think that in the end, solid waste district is gonna be who we use and stuff, but for my peace of mind, for the responsibility I feel has been given to me by the residents, I think that I just need to see that other piece before I make a decision.
Anybody else? David, did you want to respond?
The only thing I guess I would clarify is that this has been a negotiation already. The district proposed a certain rate based on what they felt was what they needed to be a sustainable organization. I proposed a different rate and we've negotiated to a place. The other thing I would just say is that all of these rates are all lower than what residents of an unincorporated county pay as proposed. So for context there, these are all lower rates and would remain lower rates than what an unincorporated county resident gets for the same level of service.
All right, I'm going to call for the vote. We have a motion, a substitute motion to table consideration of approval of an interlocal agreement between Moab City and the Solid Waste Special Service District Number 1 DBA Canyonland Solid Waste Authority.
Mayor, if I may interrupt, sometimes when you make a motion to table, you say a time certain for when you'll come back and revisit it. And
Right.
Jason said for 30 days. Maybe you want to change your substitute motion, amend that just basically to that. It's up to you.
So amended to within 30 days.
Okay, all right. So the substitute motion is to table within 30 days to reconsider or to consider, we're not reconsidering the interlocal agreement. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion fails 2-3. We go back to the original motion that was made by Colin, seconded by Tawny, the consideration of the approval of the interlocal agreement. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion passes 3-2. Okay, we're good.
Okay, thanks.
David, thanks for your hard work on that.
I think that's the first time
Thanks,
I've
Mike.
ever had a 3-2 vote.
Yeah.
We've had 4-1 before, but
No, I think.
good discussion, you guys.
Scott's on the Rocks Festival.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, that's the end of our general business. We'll move on to city manager update. David.
Yes, I don't have a ton to report. I'm actually in the throes of the year-end financial sort of stuff that needs to be done, for lack of a more technical term, but a lot of it obviously making sure we're in conformance with what the auditors were asking us to do based on the audit report. So that's really been going to be my focus for the next few weeks, along with a little bit of time off. And then we are into our new fiscal year. That's really about it.
Okay, thanks, David.
Mhm.
Let's start with Colin.
Okay. On the 5th, I attended an infrastructure tour where we were looking at all of the existing infrastructure out of the site and considering what could be beneficial to us if it stayed on site for future development. And that was very interesting, very informative. And then on the 7th, the Emtra Futures Committee, if that's what we're calling it, met and we talked about both an MOU with the county and also the hiring of a project coordinator, somebody to really guide the process as it's moving forward. So both, exciting components of the bigger picture. And then that night on the 7th, several of us attended the police banquet. So appreciative of our police department, and Chief Lex did such a great job of hosting the event, and it was just, it felt really good to be there, supportive of our police force. Today, I guess 6/11, I had a trail mix meeting, and very consistent with what we were talking about early with the what's the new Explorer name?
National,
NAC, yeah,
Right.
National Ability Center. Trail Mix has just formed a subcommittee for exploring all of the opportunities for improving access to adaptive recreation resources in our community. And so we're working closely with the BLM, its community members, and then a lot of the Trail Mix committee. And we're going to be looking at all the opportunities to just to improve the existing recreation infrastructure to make it much more accessible to the adaptive community, and hopefully making, consistent with what the Ability Center is doing, hopefully making Moab a place that people look to as a very friendly and inclusive place to visit all abilities. So that's really exciting. And then just a little while ago today, I went to the UServe Utah Senior Volunteer Appreciation celebration, and then you all heard a lot about that, but that was again a feel-good moment in our community, and a lot of great work they're doing, a lot of great knowledge. So that's it for Colin.
thank you, Colin. Tawny,
Mine is really short because I haven't had any other meetings the last couple of weeks. Next week and the following week are my excitement weeks.
Jason,
So, at a Grand County EMS meeting, wasn't a ton of stuff on with that. They're looking at getting a new doctor to do medical control for them. Calls are starting to, are continuing to trend down, which I guess is good for people, bad for, revenues. But they are kind of staying fairly busy, and they had a really successful reunion with a lot of the EMS in town, about 20 years, and that was good. We talked about that a little bit. I attended an airport board meeting, kind of talking about some things that are going on out there. They're redoing some taxiways. As soon as they get some funds allocated to them by the FAA. Contour Airlines will start, which is the essential air service that's at the airport, will start code sharing with, I think it's American Airlines, starting on June 18th, which will be really good because then that'll actually, they'll change terminals with that, and you'll be able to book a flight directly to Moab and stuff. So, and where you haven't been able to do that. So that's a positive ray of hope with the essential air service. Today I attended a travel council meeting. Kind of not a lot positive was really said at that. It's, well,
do tell.
basically almost every sector of business in town, they're saying it's down, from last year. And that's some pretty interesting numbers, that they're talking about that and kind of why things are down, that it's, but that all the state and stuff is reporting that sales tax is up, or up slightly, or TRT is up slightly, but actual business and occupancy is down. And even the restaurants are saying that they're down. Melissa with the travel council, one stat I got was the car rental industry, which is like UTV rentals, car rentals, Jeep rentals, things like that, are down 36% for the year, which is a pretty substantial number. And I think that the travel council was going to make a presentation to the commission next week and just kind of talk about they're applying for a grant with the state for co-op funding for advertising, and then hopefully they're going to try to talk about just the state of the city and stuff, which I think at some point we kind of need to have a little bit. I'd like to see us have a little bit play a bigger part, stuff, because most of those tax dollars or most of that money is being spent within our city limits. So it's a big deal.
They're down that much. Why does town seem so busy?
I don't know, they're saying that, like the park visitation is up, the Dead Horse Point is up, Canyonland's up, Arches is up. But I think kind of, people are coming, but they're not doing, activities or they're not doing, and hotels are down. The hotels are down, but Airbnbs are up is what they're saying and stuff. So there's like just some weird fluctuations in what people are doing in the market and stuff. So anyway,
Interesting.
yeah.
Caitlin.
I attended a Community Renewable Energy Agency board meeting. They issued a press release in support of the Salt Lake City URC Climate Pollution Reduction Grant application. We passed a resolution formalizing the process for new communities to join the agency. There is an application process that's about to come out. Applications are due July 15th. And new communities will sign their interlocal agreement, kind of follow similar processes to what we have. The payment schedule is set based on kind of the rates that existing communities have followed, kind of based on population and usage. On the 6th, I attended a housing task force meeting. This was, I guess, kind of tied to, city working with the county. Elisa Martin is leaving Grand County at the end of this month. She has done amazing work in the county planning department. It was her last housing task force meeting. She'll be having a going away celebration at the end of this month and is going to Park City to work in their planning department. She gave an update on various HDHO and ADO projects, which are in some variety of process. We talked a lot about the housing survey. The Housing Task Force is putting out a housing survey focused on trying to get localized data, particularly about folks who rent and or live in alternative housing situations, which will better inform our policies, county policies, community policies, and ways to best serve our residents. Also on the 6th, I met with Liz Soja. She's with the NAR Initiative, which is Gateway Natural Amenity Region. It's through USU. And they are planning, they're hosting their annual conference here. It's called Base Camp. It'll be in Moab, October 13th to the 19th. The first half will be focused on outdoor recreation, so sessions really specific to that. And then the second half, 16th to 19th, is focused on gateway and community planning. They'll have sessions and field trips and all kinds of fun stuff. So should be good. I'll be at another conference with the mayor, so I wish I could be at both, but NAR does amazing work. I've learned a lot from them. They're a great resource for communities like us. I attended the police department banquet, which was great. We have a great force, and it was really nice to be there to be able to honor them and all the work they do. And then yesterday, I took a day trip up to Logan to attend. I was invited by Michelle Weaver. She's the state director for USDA Rural Development here in Utah. They're having a larger kind of USDA conference in Park City, and scheduled a roundtable yesterday with the Rural Housing Services Administrator Joaquin Altoro and his deputy administrator Kathy Glover. It was a really important conversation with USDA state directors from across the country who are in the room. Myself, Christina Oliver, talking about a lot of the innovative things that we're doing in the state to support affordable housing and in Moab. For context, I was invited to advocate on behalf of our housing needs, and particularly on behalf of the programs that USDA does in Moab. The federal government, for their upcoming budget, has cut over $800 million from the 502 direct loan, about 30% of that budget. And they have cut through over $3 million specifically for mutual self-help programming support. This has a hugely negative impact on housing developers in our state, because if you don't get funding, that puts a halt on your entitlements and is having a lot of housing development partners across the state really question, what comes next and how they keep building. And just kind of last fact about that, Utah has built over the last 2 years has consistently built 20% of the total mutual self-help units built in the country. And Utah as a state is tied for the most mutual self-help providers in the country. So it is a huge program in the state. We are tied with the state of Washington. California is second behind. So we have even more self-help providers than the state of California. So it's a hugely important program. And we'll see what happens. But I think rural Utah and rural housing programs need to continue to advocate because affordability crises are not just in urban areas. And then finally, it is June. I wanted to acknowledge that it is Pride Month. And just wanted to acknowledge all of our LGBTQI community members. I'm here to advocate as a member of that community and just want to support and continue to encourage diversity and equity and everything that the city does. I think, kind of related. But what we did today with creating that new use is a great step towards creating a safe and respectful community for everyone, regardless of who they are. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Luke,
I do not have anything to report.
do you have a big event coming up?
Yeah, it's weird. I didn't have any city stuff, and yet my life still felt completely chaotic.
We recognize that, Luke. Good luck too, because we won't see you again until after
No.
you tied that ball and chain to your ankle. Congratulations to you, buddy.
Please wear the suit at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Hey, I found out I'm being the second.
We're going to be having a conversation about suits, by the way.
Heard.
Okay, very quickly, Colin, and Caitlin and I both were at the Moab Police Department banquet. Thank you guys for including us. Really appreciate all the work that you do. It was very, very well done and received, so appreciate that. I also participated in the UMTRA infrastructure tour and the committee that's going to be involved in moving that development forward. And just so everybody knows, that group is the city and county planners, city and county administrators, and electeds from both bodies. So it's a really good group, and I'm looking forward to the outcome of that. Met with Jen Sadoff a couple of weeks ago to talk about the healthcare issues in our community, and also met with the executive director from the AOG to talk about the homeless prevention program and the rapid rehousing. I'll be meeting with Caitlin tomorrow to talk about some of that. They will be receiving money in July. They really, really would like for Moab to be a participant in some of that funding. So we can talk about that tomorrow. And that's all I have. Oh, no. We have a Canyonlands Healthcare Special Service District. We will be meeting with Andy and Liz Tubbs, the chair of the EMS board, and Andy's the ED, as you all know, to talk about a proposal they have so that perhaps the healthcare district can help support them through these rough times that you're having right now. So more to come on that. And then also, just as a reminder to the public, we will be having an open house regarding the property tax and the capital improvement plan. We would like input. That'll be at our prior to our next meeting on June 25th from 4 to 6 o'clock. And then we'll probably have an hour afterwards if anybody's still around. So just as a reminder to the people out there. And that's all I have. We do not have closed session this evening. I always keep pending litigation just in case something comes up. So, but we don't have anything to discuss tonight. So I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Tani,
A second.
second by Luke. All in favor?
Bye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Go to Woody.